I'm Michael Brooks.
And I am Matt Binder.
And joining us now is Bill Scher. He's a columnist for The Week magazine and the executive editor of Liberal Oasis. Hey, Bill, how are you?
I'm good. It's great to be back on. I'm sad not to be on when Sam's here. I'm sure Sam would love to talk to me about the subject.
You'll get a little bit more of a gentle treatment from us.
Yes, that's very true.
Truth be told. But full disclosure, I've actually known Bill for a couple years myself and also consider you a friend. And this is the first time, or actually the second time we've done something like this. So this will be fun. So, Bill, just to start us off, you wrote this piece in The Week basically making the liberal case for high-tech NSA surveillance. What is the case? Why don't you give us a summary of your argument?
Well, I'm one of those liberals who remembers the Bush days when we were upset that he was not focused on Al-Qaeda, that he was going into neocon adventures into Iraq, and so you took your eye off the ball at Tora Bora, you let Osama run into the mountains. And I'm still in that same place. Let's focus on actual threats and not bogus threats. But to go back to the point of the article that I wrote, the big picture, liberalism at its core believes in the use of government for the common good. I think good liberals can disagree on how that should be used. I'm not saying I'm not the keeper of the flame here. I'm saying there's a case to make that when you're dealing with an actual threat that's actually harming the common good, actually harming public safety, it is not illiberal, it is not authoritarian or fascist to say, okay, how do I address the problem of clandestine terrorist agents plotting to kill us, which is actually happening, it's not made up. And if we can do that in a way that does not infringe upon our freedoms, like what often happens in America. I mean, the history is bad. And I understand someone saying, because of this bad history, because of the communist witch hunts, because of COINTELPRO in the 60s, because of Japanese internment camps, because of Palmer raids, I don't trust the government with this data. I get the argument, and I don't think it's a bad argument. But what I have seen over the last 10 years of this program being in existence, so not theoretical, not hypothetical, what's actually happened is that this program has been used to pinpoint actual terrorists and not mass scapegoat and not abuse privacy. I mean, if we had one example of the data being abused, I guess I'd have a better argument. But we haven't seen that in 10 years.
Okay.
I see that the net result of this as being a much better record on civil liberties and personal freedom and much better pinpointing on the actual problem. That's why I come down on the side of supporting the current program.
All right, so let's just disaggregate a few things here, I think really briefly, that are kind of important to establish. So no one here is recommending or suggesting or arguing, certainly not Matt or I or Sam, that Al-Qaeda isn't a legitimate threat, that there isn't actual threats in this realm that need to be addressed. So I think, that kind of aspect of the argument, and that there isn't, legitimate uses of law enforcement, intelligence, and all the rest to monitor, track, and avert those attacks. So that can kind of be tabled. But then you're kind of getting into this other terrain where you're saying, okay, so this program has never been abused, and in fact, it's been successful. I don't see clear evidence on either of those two fronts. One, I mean, this program is so secretive and so closed. Loretta Sanchez said last week that we are just finding out literally the tip of the iceberg of what we know about this just from what we've been disclosed so far. And then you put that in conjunction with the historical examples you raised, which are very important, but also areas that maybe haven't been directly linked to the program, but are certainly current, like police departments coordinating with the FBI to invasively monitor Occupy Wall Street, nonviolent environmental activists getting monitored, anti-fracking people showing up on, private intelligence agents, private intelligence firms working for the state of Pennsylvania. And then also kind of FBI entrapment cases of basically simpletons, kind of setting them up on these sort of ludicrous terror plots that, have been kind of conducted and orchestrated the whole way through by the FBI. So it seems like we don't really know, and there's plenty in the broader environment that would suggest that a lot of these things are subject and to abuse right now.
Well, I'm not saying it's an airtight case. I think there is an argument against it. It comes down to a certain degree of trust based on recent evidence. Which way do you go? If you're going to conflate FBI stuff and NYPD stuff with the NSA, which I'm not putting words in your mouth. I think you're saying we don't know if they're connected. If you want to presume the worst and that they are connected, I can see coming out on the other side. I feel like even though this is a pretty secret program, there's all sorts of secrets that we have learned in the past 10 years. All sorts of things we weren't supposed to know right away that get out. There's plenty about the drone program, plenty about torture in the Bush administration. There's plenty of stuff. Anything that's controversial inside the government, it's a lot easier for that stuff to leak out now than 50 years ago when the press was a much more of a closed circle. There's now many more places for leaks to go. I would suspect if someone had the goods on actual NSA abuse, we already know people inside the NSA that aren't happy about this on philosophical grounds who have leaked. Those folks have not leaked actual abuse yet. So until I see that, I'm not going to presume it. And I also believe that if that does come out, it violates current law, and I think it would be addressed under current law. It wouldn't be accepted by the public. So I don't see how the program itself can't be managed, can't be safeguarded. The basic concept of metadata collection that cannot be accessed with additional court approval doesn't strike me as a violation of the Fourth Amendment. It strikes me as an effective way to deal with the terrorist threat.
Bill, doesn't it bother you though? Like, okay, your argument is that they need this extra approval for someone like the FBI or the NYPD to be able to access this information, the metadata, the phone records, the online history. But I mean, we have, for example, how can I put this? Evidence of so many of these private contractors just with Edward Snowden, he was a private contractor for Booz Allen Hamilton, and he was able to access this information. And don't you think there's a problem that there's all these private contractors who have this information? I believe there's it must be tens of thousands of private contractors from even low level to high level who have access to this giant amount of information.
I would just add to that parenthetically, because I've said on the show, and some people disagree with me, but I'm very supportive of the NSA leaks, but I don't like the hacking leaks at all. And I think, a good case could be made. Why is that coming out, and who is being trusted with this degree of information?
And that's a whole separate issue. I don't want to and I agree with you, Michael, but I don't want to get off the point that Matt is making. Well, I mean, it is possibly problematic that there are more people who have access to with this data than they should. And I imagine this leak is sparking that exact conversation within the NSA and within the White House. I have no problem with there being, there should be oversight. There should be congressional briefings. There should be constant monitoring of the program. There shouldn't be a blasé attitude about it. Don't worry, it's all going to be all right. There should be a degree of discomfort that we have so things don't go off the rails. But I think that you can have that concern and still feel like the program is generally a good idea, but needs to be, continually monitored and refined, than to say this is a fatal flaw in the program, therefore it should not be done at all.
Well, okay, so then actually I want to get back on two things. One, I think that's, you said earlier sort of about, if there had been clearer abuses, they probably would have been leaked. Now, I would say by that same token, and we could see this with the drone program. So yes, there's been different types of leaks from about the drone program, some of them incredibly critical of it. And the administration itself has leaked a lot about the drone program to make them, look good. So I think by the same token, if you want to say more abuses probably would have been leaked, I'm going to say more success stories from this would have been leaked. And the argument that people like Thomas Drake and Snowden obviously would make is that they do think that this level of coordination and oversight and information gathering is intrinsically an overreach on the Fourth Amendment. And I have to say, I mean, it seems like the administration hasn't had to address this through a legal technicality of people not having standing in court. But that's the fundamental point of the leak so far, right? That this is a grand violation of the Fourth Amendment.
Well, man, that's a fundamental, I think, just different philosophical view. Does the collection itself amount to this grievous violation of privacy that violates the Fourth Amendment? And people just have different opinions about that. If you think the current program violates the Fourth Amendment, you have a recourse for that. You can sue. The ACLU is putting the lawsuit together. You have to get the Supreme Court eventually to agree with your interpretation for it to actually to be decreed unconstitutional. And I see Glenn Greenwald make this case that how dare the administration strike down these types of lawsuits on technical grounds, try to strike down technical grounds and succeed. Well, guess what? That's the law game.
But Bill, the point is not. But the point is not.
If you can't find enough judges to agree with your view, then your view is not law. That's just sometimes you just lose the argument. That happens in life.
Well, I mean, Dred Scott was a law. I mean, I don't know what that means I'm not demonizing the Obama administration. And if you want distinguish between, myself and someone like Greenwald, I have no personal antipathy towards Obama at all. I voted for him twice, but I don't think that it is a loophole argument, and therefore the case has not gone through a process. I mean, isn't that the kind of main takeaway?
I mean, I understand that. As a technical matter, yes, you're correct. But if you can't find a single judge on the district level or 5 judges at the Supreme Court level to say, yes, you as an American citizen have basic standing to deal with this issue, and because of that, your concerns on privacy grounds are absolutely valid, and this program should be struck down. If you can't make that case to a judge, at the end of the day, under the Constitution, if the concern is what's following the Constitution, well, part of the Constitution is the judicial branch decides these questions. If you can't get the judicial branch to decide the question, then your constitutional view is not carrying the day. And if we got to the merits, the clause in the Constitution is unreasonable searches and seizures. There is a qualifier there, unreasonable. We just had a case about DNA swabs that was 5-4. It scrambled the ideological composition of the court, but the 5 said taking a DNA swab of someone when they're arrested for a serious crime and then using that information to charge them with another crime is reasonable. Scalia and some of the other liberal justices vehemently disagreed, but they didn't have 5, so they lost. That you can have debates about how the Constitution is interpreted. I have one view about the 4th. You have another view about the 4th. If you're going to win, you got to get 5 Supreme Court justices on your side, and that includes the technical preliminary questions as well.
How is you mentioned the ACLU bringing up the case though, but how are they supposed to? How are these cases supposed to be brought up and won by these people before these leaks came out? I mean, how do you have how do you fight a secret PRISM, and how do you fight these secret policies with that when you can't? I mean, over 500, almost 500 cases have been dismissed from court for secrecy or lack of standing because of these reasons. I mean, how do they fight these things?
I think it'll be very frustrating to be the ACLU on this question. I don't think they're going to win this case. I don't think they're going to win on the standing question. And if they did that, I don't think they're going to win on the merits. But
then don't you
that's
see
their job? They're going to try. And if you can't win there, if you feel this is a rigged game and the judicial branch is just too deferential and asks security questions, you can't win there. Well, your other avenue is the legislative branch. And if you can't get Congress to agree with you there, then if you lose for all 3 branches, the then how do you accept the result that you cause a revolution? I mean, those are the options that are left. And I hear folks on the opposite side of me saying, well, Ron Wyden says this and Mark Udall says this. That's great. You need a majority. They're two people. I think they're sincere people. But if they can get their colleagues to agree with them, they're not the voice of the entire Congress or the American people. At some point, you have to actually win the argument within the system we have. And if you don't like that, then you got to overhaul the whole system.
But then how do you win over the legislative branch, though, when, like you said, when they don't even know what's going on? I mean, you have Jeff Merkley out there last week saying how this is the first he's heard of these things, and then it came out that he missed one of the one hearing that they had on it, and he just happened to not be there for that one hearing. I mean, isn't there a problem when these secret things that, all right, one hearing and they didn't tell them what was going to be discussed? If these Congress people are not there to know what's going on, or they just aren't being told about it, how are you supposed to win over the legislative branch if you fail with the judicial branch?
I mean, if I'm a legislator and I'm not being properly briefed, and that angers me, and a majority of my colleagues feel the same way, we can pass a law saying you're not properly briefing us, you've gone rogue, this program is hereby null and void. They're allowed to do that. It seems to me that most Congress people don't feel that way.
Well, but Bill,
they haven't properly briefed and don't want to sit on the program. That's just a disagreement. If you don't like the way the Congress is structured, you got to rally the public around the question to change the Congress. I think, and I'm not saying this means I'm right and you're wrong, but I do feel that people are making assertions about what's legal and what's constitutional, and individuals are not the final arbiter of that. You have to convince folks to pass laws that clarify things to your way, or convince judges otherwise, for that argument to carry the day.
Right, but Bill, I mean, look. Okay, so I think some things are getting conflated. I think that obviously a fuller hearing on the merits of the case have not been heard because of a technicality. Now, we can debate, whether or not that's legitimate, and that's what the court has found, and what would happen if it actually was heard, but that full case has not been heard. Then you have legislators who I think, I don't think it's ascribing negative intentions to people. I just think, look, maybe your main incentive is, I don't really care about anything else. I don't want to kind of deal with the burdens of oversight of this program. I just never want to be held responsible for another terrorist attack. That is my singular political motivation. I'm not weighing and balancing other things. I guess and then you could sort of talking about what's legal here, but I think that that's a related point, which is that many of us who opposed the Patriot Act, the point was we don't want some of these things to become legal, right? So there's also just the substantive question there too. But I think that don't you think that there's a little bit of an override here when it's like, if you have three branches and you have the judicial branch, which isn't engaging because of a well-crafted loophole. Then you have, the executive branch. The executive branch, no matter what the executive branch, is going to have the desire to sort of hold things close to the vest and take a certain degree of power. And then you have the legislative branch, which, look, not just judging by what people like Wyden and Udall say, I'm talking about Loretta Sanchez or, John Tester, who's on the Homeland Security Committee, saying, we didn't have any idea what the hell was going on. Now, either that means they're not properly informed by who's briefing them, and obviously, like Clapper lying to Wyden the other week isn't a good indication of how they're being briefed. Or it means that, sure, these people aren't taking their duties responsibly. So in any scenario, this is really serious stuff.
I'm sorry?
I'm just saying, in any scenario, these are very major policy implications of these things, and they're not getting fully vetted.
If you believe that the co-equal branches of government are having this kind of triple fail because of the nature of national security that makes it next to impossible for the gears of government to work as they should, and there's a systematic constitutional breakdown, and the result of that is leading us towards a disaster of an Orwellian state.
Just to really quickly, no words, Orwellian, disaster. I'm definitely not using any of those words. So let's just be clear.
I don't put words in your mouth, but at least with my point, if this is so horrible that the result is such a disaster for us that, look, you have to do something about the entire system. You got to start from ground zero. If you don't feel it's that dire, then maybe this privacy violation is not that dire. Maybe maybe it's not great. Maybe it's not your favorite thing in the world. You disagree with it. But just if I'm Edward Snowden, for example, is this so bad that I want to risk incarcerating myself for 30 years on this subject because it's so important? How he thinks it was. He made a rational decision that this was a fair trade. I'm concerned for him that perhaps he might look back 30 years from now while he's taking a prison cell, say, maybe I didn't weigh the pros and cons properly, or maybe I disagree with it, but it wasn't that bad. But that's a judgment we all have to make. And I'm happy that we're discussing this. I don't think we should be blasé about the subject. But I think there's a lot of overwrought, slippery slope type of arguments being used. I don't think jive with the reality.
But wait. So let's back up to this though, right? Let's get to the slippery slope argument. So if we're codifying these things, and you actually acknowledge in your piece that down the road a system like this could certainly be abused by, I think, political hack was one of the phrases you used. And I think arguably systems like this were, certainly abused in the Bush era where they didn't even bother to get FISA permission to do this type of thing. Do we want to codify this type of incredibly extensive program with, again, I just think you'd have to say objectively relatively little oversight for administrations to come, even if you totally have full trust in this one? I don't think that's a slippery slope argument. I think that's an institutional argument. And we are supposed to, at the end of the day, be an institutional...
The slippery slope is the assumption that you're going to slide away down to the bottom. I don't assume that if we have a national gun registry, that the government's going to abuse that data. I don't assume that because we have Medicare and Social Security that the government's going to abuse that data. There's some people on the far right that do. I consider that there needs to be grievous privacy violations. I don't. I think the evidence has shown that we can handle that sort of data and not lead it to abuse.
Okay, so then
I understand sort of having a different view about that. But I don't, and again, I'm not saying like I'm liberal and you're not. I'm saying there is a liberal case to make here that this is as good a use of government as it would be to have a gun sale database.
Okay, so then let me have a quick policy question about that. So yeah, I don't think concerns about this program and privacy is in any, because making a phone call is not the same type of public activity as buying an assault rifle. So I don't buy that it's equidistant to begin with. But okay, let's say we wanted to draw that analogy. So in the gun bill, which, you and I probably think this is totally useless and unnecessary, but they put an amendment in the gun bill saying these registries could never be used for anything else besides this. And if they are, there's going to be major consequences. So what would be wrong with introducing something like that into the NSA process? Safeguards like that.
I don't have a problem with that. And I mean, my understanding is there's lots of laws in the books that already don't allow you to take people's private data without court approval and use to politically blackmail them or otherwise intimidate them. I don't believe it's currently legal. So if you need more safeguards to ensure that the law gets followed, again, I'm not opposed to that. But that's reforming or refining the current program, not abolishing it.
Right, but that goes along, and this is where it connects, I think, to two larger issues outside of the kind of, very kind of granular detail of this. And actually, one is we both accepted, and all, three of us kind of accepted in the beginning of this conversation that there is an actual terrorist threat. There is Al-Qaeda activity, and that's real, of course. Do you think, though, that the actual objective level of that threat within the United States, it really rises to the level of, again, justifying this level of really expansive power and monitoring?
This is the Connor Friedersdorf argument. Look at the numbers. We have more deaths from diabetes. We have more deaths from gun violence. We have more deaths from drunk driving accidents. Why are we so overwrought about terrorism? If someone has the view that this is an overhyped threat, it induces panic unnecessarily. We could have a more British attitude, keep calm and carry on, stiff upper lip, and everything would be. I mean, obviously any death is tragic, but it's not. I'm not going to take personal responsibility for what someone else, other terrorist, does, and change how society functions because of that. I understand that argument, and I think people could be more transparent about that argument if that's what they believe.
Well, that's not my argument. I mean, just to be clear, I mean, my argument is this is a threat. And it does have its own, and it's not equivalent to something like diabetes because the things to address this are fundamentally different than addressing diabetes. But the question, again, is a question of scale. That's the question. It's not a question of, oh, well, let's just carry on and not worry about it. It's a question of scale. And then, and as an addendum to that, which brings back the realm of private contractors and how we're even defining these terms, which is also an important part of this debate, is, the real concern, again, maybe it's not political blackmail, but it's how, several years from now, we already look at, Occupy people getting, monitored in these absurd ways by local police departments and things like this. Basically some nice hippies protesting income inequality, and they're getting their Facebook pages looked at, and they're getting their addresses, accounted. And we know that, companies like agribusinesses are trying to criminalize going undercover and, filming abusive work or animal rights conditions. So what happens?
I think there's some conflating going on there. There's no argument that NSA has infiltrated Occupy or NSA is working in league with agribusiness.
There's absolutely no reason to assume that this level of information and coordination can easily, especially when you look actually and take the NSA out of it. What about the level of reliance on private contractors whose businesses overlap in all of these different areas? And they certainly do contracts at all of these various types of levels and with a variety of different types of clients.
If they're sharing information, if the NSA sharing information with the FBI like that and NYPD, they're breaking the law. They're breaking current law that's not supposed to be used for that.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's found out, I would hope they find it out and those people get prosecuted. That's against the law. But to go back to your previous argument, is this worth? Is this an overreach relative to the threat? And I mean, you could judge that based on number of casualties and say this is not that many casualties at the end of the day, so we shouldn't go overboard on this. But I think there's another element to the assessment, which is anytime there's any kind of terrorist attack, even if it's small in nature, it does produce a psychological reaction with the public that can have other kinds of substantive effects.
Yes, like in Boston, which this program missed.
What's that?
Like in Boston, which this program missed. So the argument for me more would be, what are the actual techniques and tools that really work in this regard of addressing terrorism?
I don't think it's fair to judge a program because it didn't bat 1,000. I mean, I think we have to have some. The question is, did we do all we could in that instance to try to address that threat? I think what I've read about Boston so far is that they did all they could. They didn't throw data away that they could have used.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's fair to say. I mean, if we're going to take that one instance that this proves NSA program sucks, well, that doesn't account for all the plots they may have taken out. I know there's debate about about the evidence there too, but you want to have all the evidence before you make a premature judgment whether it's effective or not. But we're not largely debating the effectiveness; we're debating the philosophy and the appropriateness of doing it at all. And I think that any kind of terrorist attack has such a negative reaction societally that the public is going to demand a response, and is not going to just sit back and treat it like a run-of-the-mill crime. The public is going to demand that their government do something to prevent these sorts of things, and I think rightly so. I mean, if you want to try to induce a mass cultural shift in people's attitudes, so that doing this in an aggressive way is unnecessary, be my guest. But I think people, especially when soft targets are being hit, it makes me feel like this could happen on my block any day of the week, and I want to see my government do something to prevent that from happening, if at all possible. I don't think it's an irrational response.
And I guess just final question: do you think that these disclosures are performing a positive function in some sense, because this debate should be had and there should be a broader discussion regardless of where you come down on it?
Well, it's hard to fully weigh that because you don't know to what extent you damage the program with the leak. Some people have argued that well, terrorists weren't using the cell phones anyway. And so who cares? So this just shows how ineffective the program is. Well, from what I understand, again, I'm not a national security expert. I'm not a former NSA contractor. But from what I understand, they're smart terrorists and they're dumb terrorists. Osama bin Laden was using a courier because he was smart enough not to go online. But Tamerlan, had a YouTube channel showing Al-Qaeda videos. Some people are not that bright. Hopefully, look, I've been on Tamerlan's YouTube channel. I've watched the Al-Qaeda video there.
Yeah,
He
me
hasn't
too.
come and get me. Because you do one thing, that doesn't mean they're going to just lock you up. You want to get a collection of data that shows the pattern of behavior. And it's obviously unfortunate that it didn't work in the
Wait,
case
so
of Boston.
Bill,
but
if
that's
you
what
were
they're
on
trying
that
to find
YouTube
there.
channel?
I'm sorry?
You were on that YouTube channel, Bill?
I was on Tamerlan's YouTube
You,
channel.
I think you.
I'm still here. They haven't named me.
You might be getting a visit.
Hey, Bill, I know that you need to run now, but I really appreciate your time, and I think it's a worthwhile debate and discussion.
I agree. Thanks for talking.